Okay, so for the solubility rules, basically what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at a list of formulas. This is what you're being asked on your assignment. And we're going to be using the solubility rules that are right here. So I'm going to talk about that first, but let's make sure we understand the two main vocab words, which is being soluble versus insoluble. So soluble means that it's going to dissolve. It is able to dissolve. It is usually what we put as a state of matter of aqueous. It's a solution. Homogeneous mixture, all right? So soluble is it's dissolving. Insoluble means it's not going to dissolve. So usually what we're seeing that as is the precipitate, okay? So that's what this PPT is right here, okay? We're not gonna worry about the naming or trying to write the formulas. I'll try and get that done for you while we're going through these examples. Your main focus for today is making sure that you can use your solubility chart, okay? Now, let's talk about the solubility chart real quick. Let's notice a couple things, okay? All right, so listed out down here, most of those things have a big negative sign next to them, okay? What that means is that it is an anion, okay? And to be even more specific, it is a polyatomic ion usually, okay? The exception to that is this one that has a positive, and that's why you see it listed first in this first example, okay? But for you guys, and for us to kind of get this down pretty quickly, I need you guys to always look at the anions. Your anions are the second thing listed. So for example, you're looking at the CH3COO. On your homework, it should be a different color, okay? Or it's always going to be in that second little parenthesis. So on this next one, I think it was iron carbonate, iron 2 carbonate, which means if you crisscross charges, this is what we're left with. So it's this part, AOH, we have NO3, we have SO4 down here. So we're looking at the anions. All right. Once you know what the anion is, you're going to figure out, are you using the top table or are you using the bottom table? As you can see, they're clearly labeled as being soluble or insoluble, and that's what's going to help, okay? So once you figure out if you're looking at the top table or the bottom table, right? So find the table. Now you're going to read aloud your rule, okay? So we have these two things. I made two little sticky notes. I'm hoping they'll show up. Hopefully you can see it, okay? But you have something is soluble unless blank. And then the other one is something is insoluble unless. And what that's telling you is that if you're using the top part, you're using the yellow sticky note, okay? If we're using the bottom part of this table, we're using the pink sticky note right here, okay? So I will make sure that I bring this up every single time so that we can say the rule together. But your best plan is to definitely try to say them out loud and do that while you're doing your homework today, okay? All right, so let's look at our example. So this first one we looked at our anions, so we found out that we have CH3COO. So we're gonna look down this list for that, and it's right there at the top. So now that I figured out that I have CH3COO, it says find your table. Well, we're in the top table, so we're in the soluble part of the table. Now that I know that I'm in this top part of the table, I'm going to go ahead and say the sentence out loud. So it says, blank is soluble unless. So acetate is soluble. That's acetate, by the way. I know it's not very clear. But CH3COO is soluble right there, which is aqueous, unless, and then you're going to read the common exception. There is no exception to this rule. What that tells you is that this is always, anytime you see acetate, that's always going to be soluble. So let's go ahead and label that as being a soluble compound. Okay. All right. I'm going to change my color here. Okay. Next one we have this OH. So we're going to look down our list and we see that OH is down here. That is the bottom table. So what that tells me is that we're not using the yellow sticky note. Now we're going to use that pink one. And this is the sentence that we're going to say out loud. So once again, we found our anion on our list. Figure out if you're doing the top table or the bottom table. And now we're going to read it out loud. Okay, we're going to say OH is insoluble unless, and then we're going to go across here and we see that we have compounds of NH4. So is BaNH4? No. The alkali metals, what are the alkali metals? Well, group 1. So anytime you see the group 1s, they're going to make things soluble again, all right? So once again, though, barium way down here. That is not a group 1 element. So it is not that one. okay? And then we end up seeing calcium, strontium, and barium. Oh, barium is listed clearly right there. And so what that tells you is that does have the exception. So let's talk about what that means if you have one of the exceptions. You see that I wrote here aqueous, solid, solid, aqueous. So basically, you're following what the table is actually saying in terms of solid or insoluble and switching to the opposite when you have one of the exceptions. So I probably could have also added in the fact that this will make this now insoluble, and this one will make it soluble to kind of keep up with our vocab words, right? Okay, so now that we've seen that, so barium is listed right here, so that tells me that it was solid, except it now has that barium, so it's going to be aqueous or soluble. So let's go ahead and label that one as soluble. All right, let's do another one. So we have FeCO3, so iron 2 carbonate. So we're going to look on our list. Let's go ahead and move pink sticky note out of the way for now. We're going to find our anion, carbonate, down the list. It was right here. So carbonate is insoluble or solid unless, okay, so once again, we're doing the pink sticky note, unless NH4, that's an Fe, so that's not it, or an alkali metal. So you have to look where Fe is. Fe is over here. That is not an alkali metal. So it does not get the exception. Therefore, this is going to be insoluble. Insoluble. Okay. All right. Let's do one that we haven't done yet. Let's do the nitrate. Let's do this one. Okay. So this is copper 2 nitrate. So looking here, okay, we're going to say, okay, look for the anion. That's the NO3. Look for it down the list. There it is up here. Nitrate is soluble unless nothing. There is no exception to that rule. So no matter what, this is a soluble compound. Okay. So again, make sure that you're keeping track of finding your anion. Say it out loud in the sentence, whether it's at the top, which is the yellow sticky note right here, or the bottom, the pink sticky note. Read the exception. Once you hit if you do have something listed in the exception, then you are going to change what that was originally saying. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. We can do one last one. So one of those first examples was, I'm just going to put it right here, AgCl. Okay, let's use that one real quick because this is a good one. So Cl is up here. So it is up on the chlorines are soluble unless, and here's your exceptions. So we have silver, lead, or mercury. Silver is one of the exceptions. Therefore, this is now insoluble. Okay, so insoluble. That's the precipitate. Okay. Alrighty, so use this to get started, and yep,